Hey McCann here for Seconds Out. Pleasure to be joined by Nova Sports Napper in Las Vegas. You've got a fighter on the card in the form of Senator Agbeko in against a tough fight, Bektemir Melikuziev. We've seen a lot of Bektemir. What are you expecting from your charge, Senator Agbeko, this weekend?
It's an opportunity for Agbeko to make a scene in the 168 division. Exactly like what we did with Troy against Callum Simpson. We're trying to repeat again here. And, Bektemir is a good fighter, number 2 in the world. But Agbeko has prepared well, he's in shape, and he's confident, seriously confident.
You seem to find yourself being able to put your fighters in the positions on fighters across different promoters in different locations. What's the key to getting your fighters onto platforms like this, on platforms that have need for fighters like yours that want opportunities too, that will take fights that will come to them?
Listen, I've got a good relationship with Queensbury, with Matchroom, with Boxer, with PBC, with Golden Boy, with Top Rank, so with Zuffa. So that allows me to speak with everyone to get opportunities for the fighters that I have. You know, I'm not in the business of falling out with people unnecessarily. So and I want fighters that are game, that when I get them the opportunity that could, change their life, they're ready to take it.
I hear a long old story that sometimes fighters, you think they want to fight, but sometimes when they get a fight presented to them, they don't want to fight. Are you able to have that conversation with fighters if that's everything, and show them the opportunity and convince them, or are they happy, like you say, you want game fighters, they're just game anyway?
I would never convince a fighter to take a fight he doesn't want to take, because it's not me in there taking punches and people's lost their lives in the ring. But ideally, I'd want them to want the fight. Ideally, I'd want them to believe in themselves and believe that the fight I presented to them as a fight that they could win. And most of the time I present fights, I'm quite confident they could win, unless the money will change their life, So, yeah.
What's the long-term plan then for Agbeko?
After this, be banging him. It'll be number 2. Well, Bektemir is number 2 in the WBA, and he's ranked number 10 or 11 with WBO and WBC, 15 with the IBF, something like that. So Agbeko potentially could be ranked across the board. And there's so many, there's 168 fights in the UK, there's 160 fights here in USA. We haven't targeted the belt that we want, because some of them are going to be getting vacated and stuff, obviously, because Crawford just announced that he's retired. So he'll just be looking for the next opportunity. The WBA champion, what's his name? Resend?
Yeah, Resend. Yeah.
That'd be a good fight.
We're on the red carpet for Barrios versus Garcia. Have you got a pick?
Garcia, too explosive.
Really?
Yeah, and I wasn't impressed with Barrios against Pacquiao. I think Pacquiao won that fight.
Pacquiao's coming back. It seems to be the year of exhibitions. You see Pacquiao's coming back, Mayweather's coming back. What's in the water with boxing right now? You're the one that's getting fighters on cards. What's in the water?
I guess with Ring Magazine and all these new promotional companies, MF Pro and Zuffa and what's the other one? MVB, IV, yeah. IVB, maybe the boxers are getting itchy feet and getting missing the sport and wanting to get involved again. And these big names having exhibition fights is good. Like Kell Brooks having one in Dubai, it's good, because they have the big platform and following, and we need their followers and platforms still liking the sport. And on the undercard, you get opportunities for people to get known.
The thing on people's minds is, of course, what you're closely linked with is Chris Eubank Jr. and his return to the ring. There was thoughts that Chris Eubank Jr. might retire. That seems to have dampened now. He does want to continue. When the conversations that you had with Chris off the back of this defeat in the rematch with Conor Benn, what's you like? Where in the ladder does he want to get back to in terms of getting an opportunity?
Get into a fight September, October, something like that, November, around those type of time. He's expecting kids right now, so not himself, but
sure. Congratulations.
Yeah, of course, thanks. Yeah, he's about to be a father, so once he let him be a father for a few months. He's in the gym still. I'm dragging him to the gym with me in Dubai. I'll be back there in March, and I'll make sure he's in the gym every day. Even without me there, he's in the gym every day anyway. And I can tell he wants to fight again, but he just needs to make sure that when he comes back, he's 100%, because I think he doesn't want to perform not at his best, because he wants to show everyone that him at his best is still a live opponent and still one of the best fighters in his division out there. So that's not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to show that unless we get him back to 100%. So that's what we're working on first. Once we get that, then we look at the options.
Are you confident Is he confident that the best is still there, that they can perform at that top level? Or because people look at the second fight and think a lot has been taken out of him. Can he get back to where he was?
Yes, if he keeps progressing the way he's progressing right now, he should be good for the end of the year. So yeah, fingers crossed it stays that way. And I've had 5 fight offers for Chris. 6 fight offers for Chris. The guy's hot. Okay, you know, there's loads. He's got like 3 world title fights he could have. So we're gonna come back when we're ready, because I know those opportunities ain't going anywhere.
Can you say some names?
They're males.
I guess that's a no, but let me throw some names at you. Would the third fight with Liam Smith appeal to the team now? I saw Liam Smith on IFL say that he really wants that fight. He makes no bones about wanting that third fight. Since he's lost to Conor Benn, would he want that third fight with Liam Smith now?
Would he want that third fight with Liam Smith? No. Look, if I managed Liam Smith, that's the fight I'm gunning for. Working with Chris, that doesn't make sense. So Liam Smith wanting that fight, I don't expect to hear anything else. What other fight is there really, you know, for him he wants, it's 1-1 for him. That's a great opportunity to make it 2-1. But with Chris, we've got so many other options that making it 2-1 against Liam Smith is not as appealing as some of the other options that we have at hand. So, you know what, I like the Smith family though. It's a fucking, I don't think you're going to get a family that again. Like, was it 4 brothers? Yeah, good guys. But yeah, that's not a fight that we're thinking about at all.
Hamzah Sheeraz looking for a world title fight himself, but Sheeraz a potential opponent for Eubank?
Maybe, see if he wins the world title and then we think about it. Without a world title, no. Right. With a world title, maybe. If the money's right, of course.
How far away do you think Chris is from a third fight with Conor Benn?
Well, Conor Benn keeps linking himself with fighters, no, not himself, but the other fighters as well in America, all 147 guys calling him out. Chris is going to be campaigning most likely at 168, so, you know, it all depends. Let's see how he gets on with his next fight. Maybe he might not win and think to himself he prefers fighting heavier. Let's see. Would love a third fight. And yeah, let's just see. Let's see. At the moment, he looks like he's a welterweight.
I can't remember if I've read this right, but is it right that Chris would like Conor to come up further if the third fight was going to happen? And I think Conor Benn said that's just not going to happen at all.
We haven't even spoke about it. Okay. So whoever has said Chris said this lie. Okay. I haven't sat down with Chris and said, "Oh, if we fight Conor Benn again, what?" Like, no, we've just said. We work on his health, you know, become a father, have the kids, and then after that, come summertime, we reassess everything and look at all the options at hand.
Still very appealing fight is in the form of Eubank Jr and Canelo Alvarez, who's searching for an opponent. He's got a fight still lined up in Saudi. Any preliminary conversations about that taking place at all?
No, but that's a fight you can never say no to if it presents itself. But if the timing of the fight works with the timing of Chris getting back to his best, you know, we'll rock and roll.
Fair enough. Let's move on. You've got other fighters in your stable looking for opportunities. Rene Giron, can you tell me about him?
Yeah, he's fighting Luis Torres next week in Dallas. Rene's number 9 with the WBO. Torres is number 13 with the WBA. There'll be a WBA belt on the line. I'm going to try to speak to the guys at Pro Box to add one more. And yeah, 2 Mexicans. They're both coming off wins where Torres stopped his last guy. Rene dropped Jordan White in his hometown, won a unanimous decision. It's going to be a good fight. Mexican fighters, they don't shy away from a war. So this is going to be very interesting. And if Rene wins, that gets him ranked in the WBA. That gets him ranked in the WBO. Again, that's Nova Sport doing a good job and getting a fighter further up the world rankings and closer to world honours.
Someone looking for opportunities for their fighters. I wonder what you think of Zuffa. Are you interested in putting your fighters into that league, that new venture?
Yeah, I'm friends with Charles. Potentially, yeah, we'll sit down and speak about a few opportunities. But a lot of our main fighters, like Troy, like Chris, like Rene, you know, they all had fights coming up already as Zuffa was starting. So that's why none of them guys had any conversations with them. But let's see what happens going forward.
Ian Green as well too. What's the latest with him?
So he was with Don King, and then obviously Don King wasn't doing any events. That's what made him inactive. Now he's with us, and he's now trained by Roy Jones, and he'll be fighting on Roy Jones' show in Alabama, March 7th. So yeah, he'll come back, get a win, become active again, and he wants anyone at 168. You know, he was ranked in the WBA for 2 years at 160, at number 5, number 4. The inactivity is where he lost his ranking, so he wants to get back to where he was, but at 168, and the boy can fight. The boy can seriously fight, so I'm excited to see what we can do with him, especially with Roy Jones in the corner.
You ever had much conversations or dealings with Don King before?
Yeah, I did actually. Who gave me his number? I can't remember. Someone gave me his phone number. I spoke to him on the phone. I was surprised to how sharp he still is. You know, you wouldn't think the guy's nearly 100 years old. He was like super sharp. You know, the fighters I was telling him I was working with at the time, he knew who they were, he knew what they've been up to. You know, he's still up to date. He gave me the contact for all the guys in his team, said, yo, reach out to my team and yeah, we can work. But then it was like, one rule, your fighter fights on my show, after he wins, he's a Don King fighter. Yeah, there's no coming on a Don King card and not signing with Don King. I said, all right, sir. We're gonna say the guy's a legend. I was like, all right, cool. But yeah, we didn't do no business though.
You fancy staying in boxing until you're 94?
Why not? You know, boxing's a sport. When you work on the promotional manager side, you can be in it for as long as possible, even yourself. So you know, let's see if I can do as well as your Bob Arams and your Don Kings and last as long with them. You know, legends in the game.
Napper, a pleasure. You'll be here till 94 speaking to me. I think if we had all the time in the world, Napper, appreciate it. Thanks for speaking to us, sir.